democracy. This may seem like, well, aren't we in a democracy? To restore democracy. This may seem like, well, aren't we in a democracy?
So when I first saw that clip that's going around social media, I actually wasn't sure, is this real? Is this not real? And so I did some digging. I found the full clip. You can see it for yourself. And when you see the full thing, you say, okay, this is real. Have a watch.
So the at a high level, if you say, what is the goal of Doge and I think a significant part of the presidency is to restore democracy. This may seem like, well, aren't we in a democracy? Well, if you don't have a feedback loop, okay, we would have to, if you it's all right. So I tell you, gravitas can be difficult sometimes.
And so we'll debate whether or not the kid said, you know, you're not the president, you need to go away. However, if you put this in context, you'll see the kid is definitely talking to Trump, saying stuff. And here he looks like he's saying to Trump to basically shush your mouth, be quiet kind of stuff. Have a watch.
Partnership with the agency heads, and I checked frequently with the president to make sure that, you know, this is what the president wants to have happen. So, you know, we talk almost every day, and there are sort of checks in place. So it's not just us just going in and doing things willy-nilly. It's in partnership with the agency heads, and I checked frequently with the president to make sure that, you know, this is what the president wants to have happen. Prices from one year to the next are the same. And they're
So overall, the stuff is pretty insane. And when I first showed my wife these things, the first thing that she said was that kids mirror their parents, right? So people around Musk, maybe Musk himself, are saying these kind of things, right? Be quiet all the time. Trump's not the president. And it's interesting because my wife said, and I always ask my wife these kind of opinions on this stuff. She was saying, you know, kids don't really even have a concept of what president is necessarily, right? Because Musk kids are still pretty young. But again, he's probably just repeating what's going on in Musk circles. So I'd like to get your guys' opinion on this stuff. And I also want to fill you in on what's going on in their plans. It just keeps getting worse. I'll say this, that little episode with Musk kid and the White House, it just shows how dysfunctional this stuff is. It also shows essentially how much corruption there is. It's nuts, right? And now the question is, how much benefit will Musk and Musk companies get from buying a presidency? This is something that was circulating today, and this is an interesting one. So the headline is, Trump administration set to purchase 400 million worth of armored Teslas. And I guess this is the public State Department had a procurement document, right? And when this story broke, actually, it was removed from the website, which is quite interesting. So then you got the updated headlines. Plans to buy armored Teslas disappear from U.S. procurement list, right? And Musk was like, oh, you guys are all liars and liars, right? So chances are, this is how I read the situation, is chances are they were trying to skirt in some you know, legal activity, which obviously conflict of interest. And when they're called out on it, they remove from the website and then call everyone a liar. And basically now we're all gaslit, right? So we don't know what reality is. But I'm just showing you guys what's happening. That's how I see it. And then that's sort of why I want to show you what the kid's, you know, is saying for himself. And so you can see it for yourself and make up your own mind on this stuff, because I don't want you to be gaslit. Just look at the full stuff. This is hard though, guys, because if you flip on American TV today, you're going to find stuff like this where Musk surrogates are saying a whole bunch of crazy stuff. Have a listen to this.
Either Elon or others need to be given the
slash and burn a lot of this stuff.
And we've been careful for 50 years, right? You have a bunch of white flag Republicans. You have a bunch of people on the left making money off of it. People on the right making money off of it too. Everyone wants to be careful and keep it going. You're not going to get perfect answers in life. I think this is by far the best thing for our civilization, is to very boldly confront this. And this is more, I guess, of a tech world way than a DC way. You're probably right that there are going to be some things need to be turned back on. There's going to be some things that were mislabeled that no one knew what they were. But it's a mess. And so it's a mess, and it's such a mess that I think being bold is the right answer. I get it's going to have a few mistakes, but I'd rather have those few mistakes and fix it.
And I think, look, part of this may be very deliberate, because part of the Washington grinding machine is, don't worry, we will survive this too. You know, we'll live through this, because the Washington grinding machine always slows everything to a complete stop and nothing gets done. I think that my guess is that this was a pretty deliberate attempt, or a pretty deliberate decision to do it this way, just to make sure that you actually make some progress.
Being careful and slow isn't how we get to Mars.
You know, and so for me, you know, these kind of Musk people, I think this is like a Palantir investor kind of person. So Peter Thiel connected. These are all shady used car salesman-y, tech bro-y kind of stuff. The way that they talk is basically, we're going to move fast, break things. The problem is if you bring that philosophy to people's, Social Security, to people's VA benefits, Medicare, it's a recipe for disaster, to be perfectly frank. If you screw up something for 1 month, 2 months, you're putting people's lives on the line. It's different than say, hey, I messed up this video game build, or I messed up my iPhone build, or whatever. It's very, very different. And that's sort of why you don't move that fast and break things in government. But I understand. I understand the point of view of the guy, what he's saying. I just want to share it with you. I completely disagree. But, yeah, each to their own. And this is sort of the fights that we're having right now in USA. What is reality, and how should things be run? Obviously, I think that all of this is dysfunctional, and it's sort of where we are. On top of that, this was actually an interesting story. Came out of CNBC, which generally is pro-Musk, as you can saw in that past clip where the female reporter was kind of like basically reiterating sort of Musk sort of line, right? Here, they're actually reporting on the more details of Trump eliminating bribery laws. So basically, Musk companies have been, bribing foreign nationals or whatever, and we're going to make that legal. The same way that I guess, I don't know if legal is the right word. We'll just say it goes on pretty freely and openly in USA, where, Musk's, U.S. companies can buy off American politicians. So why not make bribery great again and go with, foreign as well? And what we're going to be seeing, and I, the subject of this video really is sort of like, what is reality, and what's their game plan? The New York Times had a really interesting piece. This was the headline here. How Elon Musk and the right are trying to recast reporting as doxing. So basically what it is if I check the background of people, and if I tell you who's working for Musk, they're like, oh, that's private information, you're doxing us, etc., right? They're going to gaslight you, and they're going to get you to question like, oh, should I not report at all? They're going to try to intimidate reporters, as we saw, and I showed you guys in a prior video, where the AP reporter, Associated Press reporter, was kicked out of the White House for not using, the phrase Gulf of America. they really want you to say Gulf of America when it's, Gulf of Mexico. And they're like, oh, why don't you dare? How dare you say it? But that's sort of the control that they're going to want on people, and they're going to be like, okay, you can't look into any of our people or any of our corruption. You're just doxing private stuff. And this is going to be a real fight, and it's going to be a real challenge as well, because even if we do talk about, say, the truth of the events, they're going to get angry and say that what we just saw is not real. So that's why I showed you guys a couple different versions of the clip with the kid, because for me, whenever I see something, the first question I have is this: when it's so crazy, I'm like, is this real? So I look it up, right? And I find as much as I can, and then I present it to you guys, and I ask you, is it real, right? We have these discussions together, because a lot of the stuff that's going to be going down with Musk and the Trumps, they're basically professional liars and professional con people. Is going to be tough to navigate, and that's sort of why I like to go with this stuff with you every day, for it's my sanity and hopefully for your sanity, because I know, and I mentioned before, where so many of you in the community have said you go to work sometimes and you might work with Trumpers, and it's like hard to have these conversations with Trumpers, so better at just don't mention stuff. But sometimes, you may have a Trumper in the family where you feel like you have to talk about these sort of things. It's like, how do you have conversations when they're living off in some fantasy land? And my opinion always is to stick to like really simple facts that they can't dispute. Like, hey, show the video to the kid. What do you think? Right? That kind of stuff. And I think that gets them going. Or something like this, for example, I guess Musk's Doge hacker team, they're going to be heading off to NASA. And this is the big question is, will Musk try to take over NASA? I think there's a possibility of that. I know one of Musk's buddies is going to be, going to be heading it up. They announced that before, but will Musk really be pulling the strings on that one? I guess people at NASA are already quitting. It says acting NASA chief says Doge to review space agency spending as hundreds take the buyout. So we'll see. On top of that, there's more is they actually put up a website for Doge now. They're getting more serious in this stuff. But oftentimes, like the stuff that they do, I'll just be perfectly frank with you guys, they have bad arguments and they target low IQ people. They're perfectly frank. And I know I'm a little bit mean there, but this is what they put on their website. They put, oh, okay, unconstitutionally indexed as it reads as 18.5. Okay, what does that mean? And basically they're saying the more rules there are, the more unconstitutional stuff is, which is frankly ridiculous to saying that more rules equal unconstitutionality. Now, I understand their point of view. They're talking about rulemaking. So basically, when you pass a law, then agencies go through and come up with like, how to sort of carry that out. In Musk's point of view, I'll just kind of give you an example. So let's say I'm determining the type of cars that can be on the road, and Congress passed a law, just for example, and it's kind of somewhat vague language that says, hey, cars can only go a certain speed and be a certain weight, and if they damage people or hurt people, right, they are not legally viable on the road. And then when you go through and make the rules, they may go into like really specific weights and then really specific materials and like really specific things, etc. Point being, though, the reason why you have all these rules, and oftentimes actually many of these rules, when a politician writes them, they're in conjunction with the agency, and sometimes if it's like a lobbyist writing said bills as well, it can get really quite complicated. But there's reasons for this stuff because the world is a really complicated place. For Musk, he wants to just basically eliminate all rules. That's essentially what that is. And so when people look at these kind of charts, will his followers like say, oh yeah, too many rules, just get rid of them all, right? Casinos don't need rules, and banks don't need rules. Nobody needs rules. Let's just go back to the Wild West. And I just, when I see this stuff, I just feel like, do people really buy this stuff? Like, for example, they're saying, okay, there's too many words when we talk about regulations. Oh yes, let's just cut all the words we can. It's like, it's just, I don't know what to say. You either can understand and see right through this stuff, or you can't. I just point out what's on their website. So that's what they got. They say they're going to put more in there, but we'll see. Elizabeth Warren's already saying they're going to be writing a letter to challenge these things. And she's actually really quite concerned, and I'm concerned as well. I think these are the big ones, is messing with our banking laws and consumer protection laws. Essentially, Musk wants to build a super everything app, and be your bank, be your crypto thing, be your dating app, etc. And then he's going to attack the regulators that would regulate him, which would be the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. So there's that. This is all the stuff going on right now. I'm just trying to keep you guys updated. On top of that, I guess the White House is now announcing layoffs. The goal of Musk and Trump is to lay off 30 to 40% federal workers, something in that range, something like that. And they're running into a lot of problems because there's a lot of legal issues with this stuff. With everything they do, there's legal issues with these things. Basically, they've been sending out a ton of emails. Sometimes they'll send out to employees. It'll say you're fired. Then they'll send it out again. Oh, you're not fired. Then you get a third email. Oh, you're fired again. And it's like people don't know what to believe anymore. Like it's frankly insane. Sometimes it'll have your name on it. Sometimes not. And then on top of that, you may not even know if who to ask, because like you may not get a response from HR, or your supervisor's been fired and you can't ask them. It's no way to run a company or a business. I just think this whole thing is absolutely nuts, and it's frankly dangerous. But that's what they want. They want to scare people. They want to get rid of as many people as they possibly can. And then effectively, then they can just rule the roost, right? If you really want to cut budget, like getting rid of people isn't necessarily the best way to do that. So for example, I'll give you an example. I think the IRS is a good example, or the SEC. We'll talk about the SEC. If you have regulators in place, like make sure that no one's insider trading, and if they are, you actually collect fees from that kind of stuff. Or IRS, right? Make sure people aren't cheating on your taxes. You collect revenue from that sort of stuff to keep the government going. These kind of things, like they want to get rid of those kind of people, regulators. It's frankly ridiculous. On top of that, people aren't even sure what's going on with the buyout. So I guess here it says Trump closes down federal worker buyout after judge lifts hold. I was reading through this stuff because some employees weren't sure if they were eligible or not eligible. Basically, there's just a lot of confusion with this stuff. I mean, I've been reading this and tracking it pretty well, but I can't even track of it because one way to get around of it is like, okay, so if we can't fire people because they got unions or other protections, let's just get rid of an entire agency, right? Because normally how you fire someone, you got to look at like seniority. Did they serve in the military? What about their actual performance in the job? All sorts of stuff. Like you actually don't just blanket fire everyone, but that's sort of how they are treating these kind of things. On top of that, guys, it's just insane. You have this as well. Trump's going to be pressuring the Fed to lower interest rates, right? So he's balancing all these interests that he has at the same time. He's got Musk telling him, hey, you got to cut all these laws so that my companies can benefit. And then he's probably getting pressure from, lots of billionaires. Hey, get those borrowing costs down so we can get this money flowing again. And already, which is actually quite interesting, remember Musk kid was telling Trump, you got to go away. I already see articles popping up about JD Vance and who's going to be the Republican candidate going forward, right? Is it going to be him? Is it someone else? Vance would be an interesting candidate because he's going to be controlled by both Thiel and Musk for sure. And then Bernie on the other side, the article that was just today, I don't think he's going to run again, but the rumor on the street is they're trying to get Bernie opening the dialogue of attacking the oligarchy, which is the right dialogue to go with, because we can see it as clear as day with Musk, having so much influence. Who's going to follow in Bernie's footsteps? That's the big question. If you're curious, I can't run. I am a U.S. citizen, but I was born in Vietnam, so I'm ineligible to run for president. And plus, even if you were to vote for me, I would want to work my way up, representative, senator, governor, whatever, et cetera. I don't think, in my opinion, that someone should just jump straight to the presidency. And that goes for any candidate, regardless if I like them or not. If we're going to go down that TV route forever, I'm just talking about if, you're looking at Mark Cuban and Oprah Winfrey versus, who I don't know, who should we go on the other side? Sean Hannity and Rush Limbaugh, I guess, or something like that, or JD Vance, I guess. Who knows? But let's honestly, regardless of who's in either party, I just want people who are going to be reasonable and not bought off by people like an Elon Musk. And I don't think that's too much to ask. That's how low the bar is these days. But that's where we are. So want to hear your thoughts about any one of these things, and I'll catch you on the next video.